First of all, congratulations on staying the course. I won't ask hands up who was out till 4 o'clock last night. Talk amongst yourselves about that. Anyway, your reward for staying is me, your pound shop David Quantick. First, I just want to pick up on something Douglas said earlier, his Larkin League table and Adam's pop references, this sort of clashing of football and pop music in the birthplace of the House Martins. So let's say it's the Larkin Conference 4, the rest 0. Okay? So, living one street from Larkin. My starting point has been that I've unknowingly shadowed Larkin. I was born in Leicester. I lived at one time just one street from his former home there, 12 Dixon Drive. Later on, I taught at Loughborough College and regularly walked past his mother's house at 21 York Road, sometimes on my way to the town centre and once a year to visit the Real Ale Festival at the Polish Club in Loughborough, which was on the wonderfully named True Lover's Walk. Why did Larkin not include that in a poem? He was in Loughborough enough. I moved to Beverley in East Yorkshire 2019 and suddenly found myself knee-deep in all Larkin's connections and connotations that the area holds. Lost, if you like, in the Bermuda Triangle formed by Beverley, Hull and the Holderness Plain. Okay? So, and just a quick disclaimer here. Anyone who witnessed my last place at the Larkin Christmas pub quiz will know I'm not steeped in the depth and detail of Philip Larkin's life and poetry. So my poems reflect on my nascent interest in him and his work and how my own poetry and somewhat fanciful imagination responds to that. And Lynn, can I be in a better quiz team next year? Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, just to say, the Larkin scholar in our house should be my partner Sandra, who, while growing up in sunny Prestatyn, oh yes, was buying an early edition of High Windows. There you go. And going to readings by Ted Hughes and Gillian Clark, all encouraged by her enlightened English teacher. He didn't quite make it over to Leicester, I'm afraid. Not me. I was face down in the mud playing rugby union. Yes, union, not league. In sunny Leicester. Or trying unsuccessfully to get into the school football team, but being the wrong size, wrong shape and too slow, I was never going to be the next Paul Madeley. Remember him? Good. Whatever the sport, I tried and I huffed and I puffed, but poetry was definitely not on my curriculum. So this is not a scholarly response to High Windows, but there are some new poems inspired, however loosely, by Larkin's final collection and my personal reflection on Larkin's wanderings, which I hope will leave you less rather than more fidgety. So my first poem is about two places, Leicester and Beverley, that have a thoroughfare called New Walk in common. In fact, I only noticed New Walk is mentioned at the bottom where the taxi service is. Taxi, sir? Both New Walks have their swanky buildings, although I was around Leicester long enough to see its New Walk wax and wane and wane and wax. And I got to thinking about Larkin's visits to Leicester and that Monica Jones's haunts, the places she lived, the university where she worked, were all at the top end of New Walk in Leicester. So it's likely that she and Larkin would have walked down it. I know they did the Beverley one, there is photographic evidence to testify. But my first poem is simply called New Walk. I'm looking at my A to Zs of Leicester and Beverley, 100 miles as the crow flies, both with an elegant tree-lined promenade, New Walk. Did he pass me in 1963, visiting Monica at the university? My perambulator outside New Walk Museum, me awestruck at the dinosaur skeleton inside, my brothers recoiling from the grimace of an Egyptian mummy. Did he see my father in the entrance, covertly puffing on a senior service, not caring for the Beatles or Chatterley, just aero engine equations and mortgages? and preferring big band to jazz? Or did he watch me later, flares, long hair, fist knot tie, filling a nervous lunch hour with a saunter along the wrought iron way, my shoe leather wearing in the same places with the same worry as his footsteps? I do know that he took photographs in New Walk, Beverley, its sycamores incrementally arching towards a quarrel, Monica framed again with that myopic Mona Lisa look. Did he use a temperamental light meter, erratic needle providing an unreliable exposure? Or trust the look to that suspended lion face? Was he sidetracked in Beverley by a race day tannoy, through Snickets and Ginnells to Beverley Westwood to glimpse a cascade of heliotrope silks spiralling towards the raucous finish line? No matter the truth. I flannered them both from home city to hometown, from end to end, a Johnny-come-lately cartographer haunting his actions, breathing the same air, trembling the same dust, weighting the same weight, expecting the predictable. So, at the end of New Walk, the Leicester one, there used to be two giant curved 1970s buildings that housed Leicester City Council. Betjeman would not have loved those awkward monstrosities, and they were never loved by the folk of Leicester either, and were demolished in the 2010s. Now, in front of where that building's stood, there is a writer's pavement, with Larkin's name nestled next to C.P. Snow, Joe Orton and William Cooper, amongst others. Therefore, when I return to Leicester, I can walk all over Larkin. Make your own jokes there. Just as I do at Hull Station. Oh, the minor connections. But I did wonder, did Monica, accompanied by Philip and looking for home contents insurance for 18 Knighton Park Road, ever stroll down New Walk, Leicester, on a Saturday morning, ever push over the broker's door, the insurance broker's door where I worked? Did I take down the particulars? How many bedrooms? Locks on the windows? Own separate entrance? Any particular valuables? And then did I conjure up an underwriting guide, talk about new for old and excesses before offering a price? I wonder. Reading Larkin's letters, it's a sort of trivial domestic thing he might have done with her. After all, he was no stranger to wringing out his underwear, mowing his mother's lawn. Then I wondered, in a flight of fantasy, does Simon Armitage get involved in his own home insurance? I think I will need accidental damage to cover me, my sherry butts. Your sherry butts? Yeah, you see, I'm Poet Laureate, and Poet Laureate, I don't think we cover them. A big risk. Yeah, well, anyway, Philip and Monica being served by me in the strip-lit broker's office, unlikely, because I was just starting out then and probably performing the time-honoured duties of all office juniors in the back office, stuffing envelopes, addressing envelopes, sealing envelopes, sorting envelopes. You get the picture. Here's my poem reflecting on that time. Trainee insurance clerk, 1978. Under a vibrating desk, boxes of manila envelopes fight my platform shoes for space. I kick at the boxes and feel a satisfactory movement. On top is an ancient franking machine. Its visceral click, snap and stamp is a metronome, my hands synchronised to it, feeding enveloped insurance policies through its inky mechanics. A white window A5 gets jammed, and at that moment the transistor radio asserts itself in the corner. The cellos in Mr. Blue Sky thrum a new beat, accompanying me as I fix the machinery, keeping time with my work. On the notice board is a health and safety poster, drawing pinned within an inch of its life. Its dense text draws me in. Duties, employee, crown, corporate, words that I whisper to the rhythm of the apparatus. In 1981, I will have a ticket to see ELO. You all go, but I don't, lost in a different rhythm of opening hours and last orders, of pints and shorts and lock-ins. I still have that ticket, pinioned to the wall in front of me. Wembley Arena, Saturday, 12th December. It's fading block text, just readable. Block D, row 21, seat 3. Of course, I'm crashing about through my original brief. Sorry, Lynn. But revisiting the poems of High Windows, I kept coming back to the first stanza in Sympathy in White Major, which reads like a cocktail recipe. Mary's already mentioned it. And there's that famous photograph as well of Monica and Philip with the big goldfish bowl glasses, which I always thought should really form the front cover and the basis of a celebrity cocktail book. The sort of thing Ed Reardon, if anyone knows, would have ghosted. I don't know, maybe called Larkin's Libations, or Poetry and Pims, or Monica and Phil's Cocktail Time. Maybe not. But that first stanza, and as Mary said, with the foaming gulps, the 3 goes of gin, the 10-ounce tonic, suggested to me it's a starting point for a piece on that moment, perhaps when the first flush of youthful drink can turn sour and remain so. Here's Boys at the Bar. 2 years before, you were losing homework in scratchy blazers. Now you're slumped against a neon jukebox, Elvis Costello pumping Oliver's Army, and later puking in the gutter, learning a new curriculum. Already brittle beyond belief, caught between mild and bitter and lager and lime, and drowning in a sea of it's your round. You had it all, you boys at the bar. Scared to death until the 3rd swift pint, still timorous until the 6th, sometimes edging through the crowd for one on your own. One in before the next round, drinking up like a hospital chart, raising a glass of empty to nothing in particular. And evenings end as evenings did, pissing by the side of Mac Fishery's supermarket, lit by ugly street lamps that flare even now as persistent memories. A scratchy loop of shitty little deaths flickering away, always there, an aftertaste of mistakes. So, doing a bit of research for this presentation, I know there was some. I read a piece in James Booth's book, and by the way, James has been mentioned so many times, I think he should get 10p for every mention. Royalties, James. Proposing that when Larkin moved into 12 Dixon Drive in 1948, the 2 years in Leicester that followed were amongst the most miserable of his life. Well, I lived in Leicester for much longer than that, and he may have had a point. I do have my parents' testimony about Leicester. My father was from Leeds, my mother was from Leicester. And so at that time, 1948, emerging from the cruelest winters in 1947, my mum telling me that she took the pram to get the coal from the Wigston sidings. My father, after 3 years in the Far East in the Fleet Air Arm, feeling like a fish out of water as he went to technical college evening classes twice a week to do his HND and then work for Rolls-Royce Aero Engines. I bet they never thought they'd be mentioned at a Larkin conference. So maybe quite a few people did have a miserable time in those uncertain years. Funnily enough, though, my parents never said they mentioned bumping into Larkin in Newark or anywhere else. My final poem takes the High Windows title poem as its inspiration, and I got to thinking about those couple of kids. Maybe they told people, we were those couple of kids, you know. We saw him watching us, knew we were being observed, and no, we weren't fucking, not then. Maybe it was a first date. And on the anniversary of that date, they take a walk hand in hand to Pearson Park to stare up at those high windows, old dreamers now, ruminating on the poet, the poem, the legacy. This is called the Poet's Correspondence. Oh, we saw you, Mr. Owlface, unblinking, eyes a camera obscura, weighing us up, inveigling into our supposed paradise. But did you realise, sat in your high windows, that your tricky letters, all inky sleight of hand, would keep on delivering perpetual confessions, self-uncensored? Did you comprehend that you would be a bandwagon, your correspondence appropriated by left and right, city and town, historian and critic? All you wanted was to write and administer. Shrug off your life, mother and all. Step into sexual light, Belfast and all. Play a little jazz, Bechet and all. A better remembrance than girly mags and terrace chants. But for some, you have become a catapult of rumour, an archive of misdemeanours neatly researched and catalogued, patiently waiting inexorably for the endless roller coaster of notoriety and acclaim, acclaim and notoriety. Repeat ad infinitum. And just to finish, once you get stuck into Larkin, you get stuck in. I had a little bit of fun doodling about with the first stanza of Annus Mirabilis, changing the year and the last two lines to reflect contemporary events of that year. And so to end, irreverently, I'll leave you with these. Annus Mirabilis, the remixes. Number 1. Sexual intercourse began in 1974, which was rather late for me, between the end of the 3-day week and Brian Eno's first LP. Number 2. Sexual intercourse began in 1983, which was rather late for me, between the end of Michael Foot and Kajagoogoo's first LP. And finally, number 3. Sexual intercourse began in 1994, which was rather late for me, between the end of John Wayne and Oasis's first LP. Pick a random year, try at home. It's strangely satisfying. Thank you very much.